Right now, Yankees fans need to pay attention because the trade market around New York is starting to move in a very familiar way. It's quiet on the surface, but behind the scenes, there is real smoke, real conversations, and real pressure building on the front office. Names like Freddy Peralta and Cody Bellinger are being discussed again, not as fantasy baseball ideas, but as legitimate possibilities depending on how the next few weeks unfold. This isn't about panic, and it's not about headlines for clicks. It's about the Yankees actively evaluating how to fix clear roster issues before the season slips away. What happens next could reshape this team faster than people expect. And today we're breaking down exactly why these rumors matter and what's actually realistic. Now let's get into the full picture, because the Yankees trade conversation right now is more layered than just one name or one move. Entering this stretch of the season, the Yankees are doing what every serious contender does: identifying weaknesses, monitoring the market, and quietly checking availability on players who could shift the balance of the roster. Freddy Peralta's name continues to surface because he fits a profile the Yankees have targeted for years. He's a controllable starting pitcher with swing and miss stuff, postseason potential, and the ability to slot into the rotation without needing to be the guy on day one. Peralta isn't being shopped aggressively, but Milwaukee has a history of listening when the return makes sense, and the Yankees have the type of prospect depth that naturally puts them in those conversations. This isn't about desperation, it's about opportunity. If the Brewers decide to rebalance payroll or look toward the future, the Yankees are one of the first teams that will make the call because they're always hunting for rotation stability with upside. At the same time, the Cody Bellinger situation is very different, but just as interesting. Bellinger is not being talked about as a blockbuster centerpiece right now, but rather as a versatile solution to multiple problems. The Yankees value flexibility, especially when injuries, rest days, and matchup-based lineups are part of the daily grind. Bellinger can play first base, all three outfield spots, and brings left-handed balance to a lineup that can get overly right-handed in big moments. The question isn't talent, it's cost, consistency, and fit. The Yankees are closely monitoring how his market develops because they don't want to overpay in prospects or money for a move that doesn't significantly raise their October ceiling. These are the types of conversations that don't always leak publicly, but league insiders keep circling back to New York when Bellinger's name comes up for a reason. What makes this trade window particularly interesting is that it's not just about Peralta or Bellinger. Multiple new names are emerging as teams reassess their timelines. Pitching remains the priority, especially arms that can miss bats and handle pressure. But the Yankees are also quietly evaluating bullpen depth, defensive upgrades, and lineup balance. They're not looking for stars just to sell jerseys. They're looking for fit, control, and postseason reliability. That's why you're hearing phrases like monitoring, checking in, and due diligence rather than confirmed offers. This front office has learned the cost of acting too fast, and they've also learned the risk of waiting too long. The balance between those two extremes is where these current rumors live. Another factor that can't be ignored is internal evaluation. The Yankees aren't operating as if the roster is broken. They're operating as if it's incomplete. Certain players are being given time to show whether they can lock down roles long-term, while others are being evaluated as potential trade chips rather than untouchables. This is important because it directly impacts what kind of deal the Yankees can realistically make. Peralta-level pitching doesn't come cheap, and the Yankees know that moving high-upside prospects is a serious decision, especially when development timelines don't always align with win-now pressure. That's why any trade involving a controllable starter would likely be structured carefully, potentially involving multiple teams or creative prospect combinations rather than a simple one-for-one swap. The reason these rumors feel louder right now is timing. The league is entering a phase where teams have to decide whether they're buyers, sellers, or somewhere in between. The Yankees are firmly in the buyer category, but not recklessly. They're not chasing headlines. They're chasing solutions. If the rotation shows signs of fatigue or inconsistency, Peralta becomes more appealing. If the lineup struggles against right-handed pitching or lacks defensive flexibility, Bellinger becomes more relevant. And if other teams fall out of contention sooner than expected, additional names will surface quickly. This is how trade markets evolve, and the Yankees are always positioned to act when conditions shift. It's also worth addressing what this is not. This is not a guarantee that a deal is imminent, and it's not a signal that the Yankees are unhappy with their core. Misleading reports tend to exaggerate urgency, but the reality is more calculated. The Yankees are doing what contenders do every single year, staying ready. Sometimes that readiness turns into a blockbuster. Sometimes it turns into a smaller depth move. And sometimes it turns into no deal at all because the price never drops to a reasonable level. Fans should understand that silence doesn't mean inactivity. In fact, it often means the opposite. The most impactful Yankees trades in recent memory didn't feel inevitable until they suddenly happened. As for Peralta specifically, the appeal is clear. He brings strikeout ability, playoff temperament, and years of control that justify a strong prospect return. But the Yankees won't move elite assets unless they believe he's a difference maker in October, not just a regular season innings eater. That's the internal debate happening right now. With Bellinger, the conversation is more about lineup balance and defensive insurance. He's not being viewed as a savior, but as a piece that could quietly raise the floor of the roster if used correctly. Both situations are fluid, and both depend heavily on how other teams position themselves over the next stretch of games. What fans should really watch for are signals rather than confirmations. Lineup decisions, innings management, roster shuffling, and prospect promotions can all hint at what the Yankees are preparing for. When certain players stop being mentioned as untouchable, that's when trade talks get serious. When certain teams start openly listening, that's when names like Peralta move from rumor to possibility. The Yankees are disciplined, but they're also aggressive when the moment is right. That combination is exactly why these rumors don't go away. So as this trade alert continues to develop, the key takeaway is simple. The Yankees are active, aware, and prepared. Freddy Peralta rumors exist because he fits what they value. Cody Bellinger talks exist because versatility and balance matter more than ever. And new names will keep emerging because the market hasn't fully formed yet. Nothing here is guaranteed, nothing is being forced, and nothing should be dismissed. This is how serious teams operate before a move that could define the season. Stay locked in, because when the Yankees finally strike, it usually happens fast, and it rarely comes without weeks of quiet buildup just like this.